in the morning.
Welcome back to our channel, where we dive deep into the heart of Genoa City's most gripping dramas. Today is a beautiful day to unravel the complex web of power, loyalty, and betrayal that defines our favorite daytime families. Let us jump right into the escalating warfare that is threatening to tear the most powerful dynasty apart from the inside out. The Newman family has always operated under the heavy, dictatorial shadow of its patriarch, but the foundation of this billionaire dynasty is currently fracturing in unprecedented ways. For decades, Victor has demanded absolute loyalty, manipulating his children and his wife as if they were mere pieces on a grand corporate chessboard. However, the emotional toll of his relentless machinations is finally reaching a catastrophic boiling point. The children who once vied desperately for his approval are now beginning to see the true cost of his conditional love. This is no longer just a battle for corner offices, it is a fundamental war for the soul of the family. At the center of this brewing revolution is the golden child herself, a woman who has sacrificed her happiness repeatedly to sit at her father's right hand. Victoria has spent her adult life molding herself into the perfect corporate successor, often mirroring her father's most ruthless traits. Yet, beneath that icy exterior lies a fierce, protective love for her mother. The recent events surrounding Chancellor Industries and the forced surrender of Newman Enterprises by Phyllis Summers had already strained the relationship between father and daughter. Victoria publicly challenged his unilateral decisions, but the conflict remained largely professional. That dynamic fundamentally shifts when the battleground moves from the boardroom to the hospital room. Victoria's corporate rigidity shatters when she is confronted with a profound, terrifying personal crisis that threatens the very anchor of their family. The devastating discovery of Nikki's severe health crisis serves as the ultimate catalyst for this family rebellion. For weeks, the Newman matriarch has been silently enduring agonizing physical and neurological symptoms, masking her terrifying reality behind a veneer of stoic elegance. Victoria, highly perceptive to her mother's subtle shifts in behavior, finally uncovers the deeply guarded secret. Nikki is not only suffering from a severe exacerbation of her multiple sclerosis, but she is also facing the terrifying symptoms of a rapidly growing brain tumor. The sheer vulnerability of a woman who has survived alcoholism and decades of corporate warfare strikes a devastating blow to Victoria's heart. Seeing her mother physically collapsing ignites a protective fury within Victoria. What transforms Victoria's grief into absolute, unyielding rage is the realization of what has accelerated her mother's physical decline. Victoria connects the agonizing dots between Nikki's deteriorating health and Victor's relentless manipulations. Instead of providing a sanctuary of peace for his ailing wife, Victor has actively cultivated an environment of toxic stress. He has utilized Matt Clark, the very monster who inflicted unspeakable trauma upon their family, as a pawn in his vendetta against Kane Ashby and Phyllis Summers. By bringing Matt into their orbit and issuing cold ultimatums to Nikki regarding her loyalties, Victor has prioritized revenge over his wife's basic well-being. The psychological toll of Victor's actions on Nikki cannot be overstated. She is a woman fighting a war on two fronts, a terrifying battle against her own failing body and an emotionally exhausting struggle against her husband's dictatorial control. Nikki is exhausted, drained of the vital energy she desperately needs to fight her illness. She has watched Victor use their children as bait and leverage, and she has felt the sting of his ultimatums demanding she sever ties with lifelong friends. Victoria sees this emotional abuse for what it is, recognizing that Victor's brand of love is inherently destructive. The realization that her father's actions are literally sickening her mother pushes Victoria past the breaking point. Armed with this devastating truth, Victoria orchestrates a confrontation that shakes the very walls of Newman Enterprises. She marches into the CEO office not as a subordinate executive, but as a fiercely protective daughter demanding accountability. Victoria relentlessly interrogates Victor about his tyrannical control, his appalling treatment of Nikki, and his blatant disregard for the emotional safety of their family. She strips away his justifications of protecting the family legacy, exposing his actions as nothing more than the selfish maneuvers of an egomaniac. The tension in the room is palpable as Victoria refuses to back down, her voice echoing with accumulated resentment. "Nikki, who has spent years trying to mediate the explosive conflicts between her husband and her children, witnesses this confrontation with a mixture of shock and profound gratitude. Weakened by her illness and ground down by Victor's relentless machinations, she is deeply moved by Victoria's unwavering support. For the first time in a long time, Nikki does not intervene to protect Victor's ego. Instead, she allows her daughter to be her shield. This silent endorsement from the matriarch solidifies Victoria's resolve. Nikki's tears of exhaustion and relief serve as a poignant testament to the unbearable weight she has been carrying, and Victoria vows never to let her mother suffer in silence again. The private confrontation rapidly spills over into the public domain. Victoria, recognizing that Victor only respects power, makes a calculated, highly public declaration challenging his supreme authority at Newman Enterprises. She makes it unequivocally clear that she is drawing a line in the sand, positioning herself not just as a rival CEO, but as the ultimate defender of her mother's dignity. This public defiance is a calculated maneuver to strip Victor of his perceived invulnerability. Victoria knows that to truly protect Nikki, she must dismantle the absolute power structure that allows Victor to operate without consequence. Her actions send shockwaves through the corporate world, signaling a civil war. However, Victoria is astute enough to know that she cannot wage this war entirely on her own. She needs allies who understand the unique, suffocating nature of their father's love. She seeks out her brother Nick, who is currently navigating the incredibly fragile early stages of his recovery from a severe fentanyl addiction. Nick is vulnerable, battling his own demons, and struggling to rebuild a life that was nearly extinguished by the very man Victor is currently using as a pawn. Victoria approaches him not with corporate demands, but with a raw, emotional plea for their mother's life. She details Victor's manipulations and the severe toll they are taking on Nikki's failing health. For Nick, the revelation of his mother's illness and his father's complicity in her suffering cuts through the fog of his early recovery. He has always been the sibling most willing to walk away from the Newman empire, the one who most deeply resents Victor's toxic gravity. Hearing how Victor has weaponized Matt Clark while Nikki suffers in silence ignites a protective fire within him. Nick realizes that his recovery cannot happen in a vacuum. He must actively fight the toxicity that surrounds his family. He agrees to join forces with Victoria, bringing his profound moral outrage to their burgeoning rebellion. The most shocking strategic move in Victoria's plan involves reaching out to the perennial outsider, Adam. Historically, Victoria and Adam have been bitter enemies, constantly vying for their father's elusive approval and the top spot at the family company. However, Victoria recognizes that Adam harbors his own deep-seated grievances against Victor, particularly regarding the handling of family matters and the dangerous integration of Matt Clark into their lives. Adam has been working tirelessly to expose Matt's fake amnesia and protect the family, only to have his efforts repeatedly undermined or co-opted by Victor's grandstanding. Victoria appeals to Adam's desire for genuine family security. Bypassing their usual corporate squabbles, she lays bare the reality of Nikki's condition and Victor's dangerous game of chess. Adam, who has always possessed a complex, fiercely protective streak beneath his dark exterior, sees the logic in a unified front. He understands that Victor's unchecked power is a liability to them all. By aligning with Victoria and Nick, Adam secures a position of unprecedented solidarity with his siblings. This unholy alliance of the Newman children marks a historic shift in the family dynamics, creating a formidable triad that even the great Victor Newman cannot easily dismiss. The climax of this familial revolution arrives when the three siblings stand shoulder to shoulder before their father. The visual impact of Victoria, Nick, and Adam united in their defiance is staggering. They deliver a joint, non-negotiable ultimatum to the patriarch. They demand an immediate, fundamental change in his leadership style, insisting that he step back from his dictatorial control of Newman Enterprises. More importantly, they demand absolute respect for family boundaries, specifically regarding his treatment of Nikki and his dangerous associations with criminals like Matt Clark. They make it clear that his era of unilateral, consequence-free manipulation is over. For a fleeting moment, the indomitable Victor Newman is visibly stunned. The sight of his children, who have spent their entire lives fractured by his design, standing together against him is a scenario he never fully anticipated. He is particularly shaken by Victoria's leadership in this mutiny, realizing that he has pushed his most loyal soldier past the breaking point. The realization that his actions have driven his children to form a coalition against him is a bitter pill to swallow. However, the shock quickly morphs into a cold, calculating fury. Victor is not a man who surrenders power. He is a man who crushes rebellions. Even as he processes the magnitude of their ultimatum, Victor's brilliant, Machiavellian mind is already formulating a devastating counterattack. He views their unity not as a wake-up call, but as an act of profound betrayal that must be punished. He begins to assess the individual weaknesses of his children, Nick's fragile sobriety, Adam's dark impulses, and Victoria's deep-seated need for his legacy. The patriarch prepares to unleash a strategic assault designed to dismantle their alliance from the inside out. The siblings may have won the battle by standing together, but Victor is preparing to wage a war that will test the very limits of their newfound solidarity. As we sit back and analyze this phenomenal shift in the Genoa city landscape, we cannot help but feel a profound sense of melancholy mixed with our sheer exhilaration. It is utterly heartbreaking to watch a family with such immense potential for greatness continuously tear itself apart due to the stubborn pride of one man. We have covered the Newman saga for years, and witnessing Nikki's silent suffering juxtaposed against her children's desperate uprising evokes a deep, visceral empathy within us. It is a tragic reminder that all the wealth and power in the world cannot buy emotional security or heal the deep psychological wounds inflicted by a parent's conditional love. We find ourselves desperately rooting for the siblings to maintain their strength, even as we dread the inevitable, destructive storm their father is about to unleash upon them. The battle lines have been irrevocably drawn, and the Newman Empire stands on the precipice of total collapse. With Victoria, Nick, and Adam forming an impenetrable wall of defiance, the ball is now entirely in their father's court. Will Victor's impending counterattack successfully shatter the fragile bonds his children have just forged, or will this unprecedented rebellion finally mark the end of his tyrannical reign? The fallout from this ultimate family showdown promises to change the landscape of Genoa City forever, and you will not want to miss a single, heart-stopping second of the devastation to come.